Hi, I'm Heather, and I'm back for part 4 of 2020 year in review. And it definitely going with a roller coaster theme because that's how it fucking was. It was insane. So far, I think what I've shared is, like I left the business that I was a business partner in at the beginning of the year. I had a full nervous system reset through this really amazing ceremony that my business partner and I did. Um, I went to an incredible weekend of building money and career confidence. I I went to and my daughter was getting her GED starting in January. And I want to make sure I kind of highlight like how incredible she was and how fierce she was about getting that done. And they kept telling her, no one your age, especially with the grades you had coming in, has ever gotten this program done very quickly. And she was like, oh, I'm getting it done. It turns out she got that whole thing done in 6 weeks. She took her last test like right before everything shut down in March. Um, so she's like, you say I can't do it? Let me show you. It did require that I had to drive her to most of her tests so that she could take her anti-anxiety medication, and just put all of her energy into just the tests, not into driving or navigating any of that. She's an excellent driver, but she's also very aware of her energy resources and wants to invest them wisely. So she did. So she completed that in March. My best friend of many, many years, and I spent about a week, I think it was, in Palm Springs and had many amazing adventures and had a lot of amazing dreams. And we're really excited to start putting things into action as soon as we came back. And that's when, the pandemic began in earnest, and I lost all of my work. Housemates changed. Lots of things happened. So by June, I, hadn't made any income in months. I hadn't paid my rent in months. Um, so I'm going further into debt. And at that time, I still didn't know if I was going to qualify as a gig worker for unemployment. I mean, I felt like I definitely should. As far as I could tell, I qualified, but I just have had so many experiences of bureaucratic systems uh, screwing me over, or me not quite fitting the criteria. I'm always just I'm like, so frequently, if it's a need-based thing, I make $100 too much in order to qualify for the based thing, but I clearly make not enough to be thriving. So I'm frequently in the past was stuck in that space. So I fully didn't. I could not allow myself to believe that I would get unemployment until I actually received something from the unemployment departments clarifying, yes, you do indeed qualify. And by June, I had no way of knowing when that would come. And so we had a house meeting, and I let everybody know, hey, I'm thinking about driving. I know it's not ideal, and I really don't want to, but I don't know how else to make some income. And I need to know, I want to just give it a week. I need to know if there's even a possibility of me still making an income as a driver so that, I need to try it. And unfortunately, that very meeting, like immediately my housemate was like, hey, I got to move out. And that came as a really big surprise. Like I didn't realize that us having this conversation was going to immediately lead to her moving out. But, she kind of had a point. She's like, well, you need to start as soon as possible. And I can't continue my job if you go in your car with strangers. So I will have to move out. So a week later, she moved out. And I was really, really, really sad about that. It was my birthday, and we had a special treat. My mom and her husband were leaving town for a while, so my sweetheart and I drove up to Seattle and house sat. She didn't really need a house sitter, but it really was us to get away. It was an opportunity to get away, have a weekend away to celebrate my birthday. It was a lovely time, and I'm glad we went. but there was already a part of me that knew that he was considering leaving, and not just my home, but leaving our relationship. He had some unfinished business in with another person, and everything had changed so much because of the pandemic that perspectives changed and priorities changed, and he felt like he had to explore this other thing before he could, before he could really move forward in his life. Before he could make any other choices, he had to at least try. So, but he was waiting until after my birthday to tell me. So I intuitively knew that. So my birthday was, not quite as joy filled as I had hoped, but I still am glad that I spent it with him, and we did what we did and went where we went and all of that. Um, but yeah, the next week, the day after the housemate moved out, we sat down and he said, "Yes, I have to go pursue um, this unfinished business." And we both knew that meant we would no longer be together. Um, and so we spent, I think that was Wednesday that we had that conversation, and he left the house on Sunday. And so those next handful of days, I feel like we did a really good job of kind of processing through the grief and some of the pain and that I was feeling, and some of my anger. And we actually had a really powerful kind of process where a friend kind of helped us, through it. But I did the full on pillow pounding and vocalizing, and say we set a container so that he knew I was going to say whatever came out of my mouth, and we could have a conversation afterwards to kind of clarify what really felt true to me and what was just emotion coming out in its ugliest possible form. Um, and it was a powerful experience, to say all the ways that I felt hurt and betrayed and sad and angry, and to release all that. And he said he felt he understood me better and understood a lot from that. So that did precipitate a pretty difficult phase of about 6 weeks, where we weren't really in connection. We weren't in relationship at all, had no way of knowing what could happen. I just had to let him go completely. And at the same time, I was realizing, okay, driving didn't go well. Yes, I could definitely make money at it, but it did not feel like the risk was worth it. And the amount of BS people gave me about wearing a mask in my car and stuff, I'm like, this is not safe and this is not an option. But the housemate had already moved out, and my sweetheart left. And I just, at that point, and I had given up my dog. So at that point, I'm like, my life is such a country music song. And by late June, I'd come to the understanding that I needed to, when my lease was up at the end of July, my daughter and I had to move. I knew that the landlord was not going to renew our lease. I knew that I couldn't afford to lease or rent any place. And we had to figure something else out. So we shifted into that gear, and my daughter worked it out that she could go move in with her best friend's family, and she found a place for her cat to live temporarily, and the dog was already rehomed, and I decided I will just float. I'll just figure it out. And pretty quickly, really amazing opportunities presented themselves. Like my mom's basement was open, and so she's like, "You can come here and stay in the basement." And then I had a friend who was like, "You can come live with me for a while. It'll just be the two of us." I navigated all the COVID protocols necessary and all that kind of thing. And that began. So as of July 31st, that started a series of moves. I moved 7 times between July 31st and December 29th. And that was difficult, really, really difficult. I've definitely whittled my things down dramatically. We have a lot of stuff in storage too, but mostly it's for my daughter to set her up in an apartment when we're able to get her a place. And I've just tried to whittle my stuff down to the bare basics, what I absolutely, need and don't want to have to buy again at some point. But just the physical moving, the impact on my system every time I had to pack all of my things, put it in my car, and then take it somewhere else, unpack, resituate, that was definitely one of the extraordinarily difficult aspects of this year, was all of that moving. On top of all of the everything that was going on in the world and all of the everything that was going on in my life. And through this time frame, also, I found out kind of after the fact that my daughter and her dad had been having very difficult conversations where he had been kind of bullying her and kind of trying to force her to see him. And she was actually setting good, healthy boundaries with him, and he was not accepting them. And in August, he elected to stop paying child support without any warning, without any discussion. Unfortunately, it was based on somehow he got the idea that I was homeless, that I was abandoning our daughter, that I was running away, moving to Seattle. None of that was at all true. Yes, we were no longer paying for an address somewhere, but we weren't homeless. We both had a place to go. Certainly wasn't abandoning her. And I wasn't moving to Seattle. That was just for a month. But unfortunately, it just kept getting worse in that situation, in that relationship, between my ex-husband and I, and my daughter and him, and the three of us. And unfortunately, it's in a very dark place right now. But so that was a big part of our experience this year, also. I'm feeling really like my system feels really activated right now. And I'm feeling like I really just, I guess all I can really do is breadcrumbs. I want to tell my story, and I want to tell the details, and I just don't have it in me right now. I have a lot of things that I'm really excited to do today, and some errands to run, and I have some firm deadlines, like the time I need to be back here at the house after my errands. So we'll just power through. So my time in Seattle at my mom's was amazing. I felt like I was in her womb again. I spent a lot of time in the basement. I could hear her and her husband moving around upstairs, but it was like their life had nothing to do with me, and I'm just in the basement doing my own thing. But she was still nourishing me and supporting me and loving me and feeding me. Gained like 10 pounds in August. Totally worth it. Living on mom food. She's such an amazing cook, and does an amazing job with comfort food. Frequently, comfort food is not what's best for my body. So, but I consciously chose. I chose to eat because whatever she presented, because I knew it was just unadulterated love, and I could easily recover from the the gluten and the dairy and all that kind of stuff, and the weight gain when I was done there. So I am really grateful for that experience. My sweetheart and I started reconnecting in August and talking every day again, and decided to start seeing each other again when I came back into town. That went through quite a few ups and downs. He still wasn't fully complete with the other things that he needed to complete. And it did come to a point where I was like, you got to figure that out. I cannot be as close to you as we both seem to want to be while this piece is still unclear. It's just too painful for me. So we need to scale back to a bare minimum until that is in a different space, until you've completed that part. So, yeah, there was so many beautiful aspects of this year, and so many really, really difficult aspects of this year. And so I'm just trying to give myself some grace and noticing that my body is getting upset and tense and painful. Um, and there's a lot I'm not saying because I just can't access it quite this moment. Um, for months, I had already, by August, I had already kind of initiated several what I'll call catalyst calls, which were a couple of different groups that I was working with, where we were all really rising quickly together by supporting each other, helping each other stay on track and focused on specific activities and things that could benefit us in the future, maybe turning into a job or whatever, because we all realize we got to create our own way. So I'm really proud of how those continue to grow. In January, I have a lot of really, really exciting catalyst call groups starting. Very excited about that. And that really came from a place of what can I do from where I am in the moment, whether it be practically bedridden like I was in March, April, May, or is it, or from the place where I am now, where I feel I still need some recovery time, but I know my resilience is extraordinarily high. I think October is when the retreat, my immersions began again. One of the amazing humans that I got to live with off and on this year facilitates these incredible early childhood workshops and communications workshops, boundaries workshops. And since I support her as an assistant, I'm her virtual assistant, as well as we're friends. She and I had an agreement where I was able to go to all of her workshops. And it was extremely beneficial, extremely growth oriented. And in the communications workshop, I learned an incredible amount. The boundaries workshop, I learned an amazing amount. But then the first liberation weekend, where I was an actual attendee, participant, I feel like so much of my inner child stuff shifted really drastically. And I really reconnected with my inner child in a way where I was like, okay, my inner child, my child self went through so much, experienced so much adversity and so much instability and difficulty and just all the things. So anytime as an adult, I kind of see something that's going on around me or something I need to deal with, all I have to do is kind of look within and ask my child self, have I accomplished something more difficult than this? Have I gotten through something, that feels similar to this, but was even harder? And every time she's able to come back and go, yeah, this is fucking nothing. This is nothing. You're fine. I mean, and I feel like I recognize that there's a part of that that's kind of downplaying my current experience, but she also isn't, she's also accurate in that compared to my past experiences, my current experiences, while extraordinarily difficult, still felt more doable and more approachable and easier than things my child self overcame. So I had nothing to fear once I had my child self on fully on my team. And that's what happened in the first workshop in October. And then in November, I went back as an assistant for another group of people. And that was also incredibly impactful and powerful. I think one of the biggest reasons is because, I had been in so much isolation for so long, particularly leading up to each workshop. everybody who was participating in the workshop had to agree to very strict protocols, so that we could keep each other safe and share air. And that helped me identify like what energy is mine and what is someone else's. What does it feel like when someone else's energy is impacting my system? So I'm still definitely in the process of understanding that more and fine tuning and learning. And I know that there are teachers out there who could help me, speed up this learning process, as well as I like to explore myself first. I like to figure out some stuff first, and then I get a guide or a teacher or a coach or something. Um, and I already have several programs that I'm working with, to help me understand all of this more deeply. Yeah, gosh, there was so sticking to the highlights. I guess it was probably October. By October, mid-October, maybe. I don't know. Yeah, my sweetheart and I were definitely back on fully and in a more full way than we ever had before, and that's continued to evolve and deepen. And I feel like we've definitely reached a level of our relationship that was actually not even plausible or possible or attainable at all in 2019 or even early 2020. And I'm not sure that if not for all of the things that changed, all the ways the world changed, I'm not sure that we would be in this space. But because we each had significant kind of shifts in our perspective around partnership and family and hyper individualism and the benefit of having at least one other person who just really is there with you. We had some pretty big, both of us had big shifts in that area, and recognized that we really are an incredibly good team. I'm very, very excited to see what we can co-create from the space of both of us looking in the same direction together. I know, yeah, there's still so much more, but I'm sure that I will come back. Even the most recent stuff feels actually too difficult to talk about yet. So that's interesting information for me. But now it's, I think I'm gonna probably end here. Maybe I'll come back with a couple more ideas or something just to kind of throw out there. But right now I feel really excited about the next year. I feel really proud of myself for the way that I was able to navigate that significant paradigm shift and momentum shift. Like I feel like at the beginning of 2020, I was really picking up momentum and I was heading in a particular way to create a particular life, and it really looked amazing. And I honestly feel like it was like the highest version of myself in my experience that I had the ability to perceive and create from that place of my consciousness. And as I let things go, things that I thought were really amazing, but like my relationship and my dog and my house and my jobs, I was like, you know what, there's something better coming for me. Because if I'm having to let go of these things that really are pretty great, I now can recognize they were the highest that I could attain and perceive and achieve from the level that I was at. I have the ability to now perceive and attain and achieve and co-create and create for myself an even higher level of experience. But I have to let go. I have to be willing to surrender that which is no longer my highest. So I honestly believe that's probably why I got sick earlier in the year, because I had so much momentum going this way, and then I kind of pretty abruptly had to stop it, wind back, wind all that back in, and redirect into a complete, not a completely different direction, but definitely different enough that it's a totally different track. Um, so I, uh, yeah, had to wind all that back in, rest for a bit, and then start going this way. Um, and now I've gotten to live in some of the most beautiful homes and spaces. I've gotten to spend significant, deep time with friends and family that I otherwise would not have gotten to have. I, my love relationship has evolved to a space of much deeper understanding and connection and opportunity and growth together, which I feel extraordinarily excited about. Um, I've come to a much clearer understanding of noticing when I'm overdoing, overextending, yeah, over. um, and I know it's something I'll continue to evolve through. Um, and it, yeah. Some of the things I'm calling in for 2021 are a deeper embodiment and exploration of myself as that cool auntie that I've always wanted to be. I feel like in so many ways I already am embodying that, and I look forward to doing that more. I love sharing what I know. I love sharing stories. I love sharing what I've experienced. I love it when people specifically come to me and go, "Oh my God, will you please tell me more about this or that?" Or I just want to hear a story, or like I love that so much, and that's happening more and more. And I'm really excited for the women's circle that I've started. We've had two meetings now, and it's the Women's Come As You Are circle. And women's circles have just been such an amazing piece of my healing over these past handful of years, that now that I get to offer and facilitate one on a regular basis feels very supportive and nourishing to my future, as well as others who can benefit from it. Um, I'm very excited about some of the projects that are already underway, and I am deepening my trust and that all my needs are met, all barriers to my thriving are removed. Every difficulty that arises is either some shit that I have not cleaned up that still needs to be cleaned up, or it's it's a learning opportunity in some way, and I can choose how to engage with every learning opportunity. And I will continue to do my best to engage from a place of response rather than reaction, and sovereignty and love at every possibility, and at least noticing when I'm coming from fear, so that I can try to choose if I want to come from love or if I want to come from fear, rather than just subconsciously acting. Well, thank you for being on the receiving end. I'm great. I'm looking forward to round 2, because round 1 feels a little unsatisfying, kind of very unsatisfying actually, but it's a start. It's a start. Okay. Happy New Year's Eve. I hope 2021 brings in a tremendous up-leveling in every aspect of your life and my life and those of our community. And growth frequently is painful, but I see the ways that we are coming together more and more and supporting each other more and more, and remembering the ways that community heals and acting from that place a bit more. All right. Hope you create yourself a kick-ass day. 'Cause I know I will.